For generations of American kids, Toys R Us wasn't just a toy store. It was the ultimate destination, a kingdom of endless aisles where birthday wishes and Christmas dreams came true. It wasn't just a retailer, it was a ritual. Parents navigated by its iconic giraffe. Employees became experts in childhood joy. And for Wall Street, it was a cash-generating fortress that seemed as timeless as play itself. And that is what makes what happened next so difficult to accept. Despite decades of market dominance, unmatched brand recognition, and a physical empire that digital startups could only envy, Toys R Us did not slowly fade into nostalgia. It was suddenly extinguished, closing over 800 stores and erasing 33,000 jobs in a matter of months. This is not a story about Amazon killing another big box store. It is not a story about kids suddenly stopping playing with toys. And it is not a story about a simple failure to adapt to e-commerce. What happened to Toys R Us is far more calculated than that. This is the story of how a profitable, beloved institution was not outcompeted, but financially engineered into oblivion. It was dismantled from the inside, not by neglect on the shop floor, but by a financial maneuver that treated a vibrant, living business as nothing more than collateral for debt. This is the story of how Toys R Us didn't just fail, it was leveraged to death. To understand the tragedy of its collapse, you need to understand what it once mastered. Long before the internet, before one-click shopping, Toys R Us solved the ultimate problem for a parent: infinite selection, guaranteed stock, and low prices, all under one cavernous roof. It was the category killer. Founded in the post-war boom, it revolutionized toy retail by moving from small shops to massive warehouses, using its sheer scale to demand the best from Mattel, Hasbro, and every major manufacturer. By the 1980s and 1990s, Toys R Us was the undisputed toy emperor. It controlled nearly a quarter of the US market. Its logistics were fine-tuned to meet the explosive seasonal demand of the holidays. To walk its aisles was to see the physical map of a child's imagination. It didn't just sell toys, it sold certainty. If a toy existed, Geoffrey the Giraffe had it in stock. For a time, it was untouchable. It built a moat of superstores, negotiated exclusive deals, and enjoyed a brand loyalty built on generational memory. To its leadership and investors, it felt like a permanent feature of the American landscape. But the world was changing quietly and relentlessly. Walmart and Target were perfecting ruthless efficiency, using toys as loss leaders to draw families into their stores for everything else. E-commerce was beginning its rise, offering convenience and price transparency. Consumer habits were shifting towards experiences and instant gratification. Toys R Us, however, remained confident in its fortress. Its stores, once awe-inspiring, began to feel dated and warehouse-like compared to sleeker competitors. It invested in technology too late and too cautiously. Yet its massive market share created a dangerous illusion, that its dominance was structural, not fragile. That illusion would become the bait for its destruction. What made this moment uniquely perilous was that Toys R Us was still profitable. It generated stable cash flow, and that steady, predictable income looked not like an engine for reinvestment, but like perfect collateral to a very different kind of investor. In 2005, control of Toys R Us was taken private in a massive leverage buyout. It was acquired by a consortium of private equity firms, Bain Capital, KKR, and Vornado Realty Trust. To Wall Street, these firms looked like savvy financial surgeons. They spoke the language of optimization, efficiency, and unlocking value. But they did not see Toys R Us as a temple of childhood, competing for family Saturdays. They saw a balance sheet, a predictable cash flow, valuable real estate, a brand name to be leveraged. This shift in perspective was not subtle, and it was immediately devastating. The buyout loaded the company with $5.3 billion of new debt. Overnight, a healthy business was transformed into a debtor. Its cash flow no longer funding new stores, better wages, or digital transformation, but servicing interest payments. The financial impact was suffocating. Hundreds of millions of dollars that should have been spent modernizing stores, building a competitive website, and improving customer experience were now funneled directly to creditors. The company was forced to starve its own operations to pay for its own acquisition. While Amazon and Walmart reinvested relentlessly into logistics, user experience, and price wars, Toys R Us moved in the opposite direction. Maintenance was deferred. Innovation was shelved. Morale turned to dread as the debt burden grew. The irony was profound. Toys R Us had the supplier relationships, the brand love, and the physical footprint that any online retailer would crave. But instead of building a bridge to the future, its ownership chose to mortgage its present. Toys R Us was not losing a battle for customers. It was being bled dry by interest payments. Every year, the gap widened. Competitors' websites got faster, their prices sharper, their in-store experiences more engaging. Toys R Us stores, by contrast, felt increasingly tired and underfunded. Lighting grew dimmer, shelves grew messier, and the magic faded into the stress of a struggling big-box chain. This physical and digital decay mattered profoundly. Retail is emotional, especially toy retail. Parents interpret a store's decline as a decline in care, in quality, in reliability. Once that trust is broken, they quietly move on. By the 2010s, the consequences were inescapable. Saddled with impossible debt, unable to invest, the company was trapped. It filed for bankruptcy in 2017, not as a failing retailer, but as a profitable one crushed by its financial structure. The liquidation in 2018 shocked the nation not because it happened, but because of its brutal speed and finality. This was not a gradual decline. It was a financial execution. What makes the Toys R Us collapse uniquely infuriating is that it was a preventable tragedy. Employees saw it coming. Suppliers felt the strain. Analysts warned about the debt for years. And yet, the financial architecture made any escape impossible. By the time the debt wall loomed, the company had been stripped of its ability to adapt. Its cash was gone. Its options were closed. The company that needed to reinvent childhood play for a new era was bankrupted, paying for its own past. Toys R Us did not die because kids stopped loving toys. It died because financial engineers forgot what business they were actually in. Toy retail is not cash flow for debt service. It is not real estate leverage. It is wonder, discovery, seasonal chaos, and relentless reinvestment in experience. Toys R Us had the brand, the loyalty, and the market position to survive and even thrive in the modern era. But it was used as a vehicle for financial extraction instead of a platform for building the future. And that is what makes this story not just a business failure, but a blueprint for how to kill a company with a calculator.